Why pilots are not allowed to change the cost index? After all, shouldn't we fly faster if we are behind time? So today, let us discuss why pilots should not take matters into their own hands. The word of the day is profit. EBITDA is a fancy word for profit. In order to calculate profit, we need to take the total revenue of the airline and subtract it with the cost. There are three types of cost for an airline, which is fixed cost, time-dependent cost, and fuel cost. Fixed costs are, for example, equipment like tow trucks, offices, computers, etc. Time-dependent costs are linked to human labor. The longer pilots and cabin crew work, the more they get paid. And last but not least is fuel costs, which depends on market prices. OPEC gets to decide on those prices. Since fixed cost is, well, fixed, the other two costs is where we play with the numbers. If pilots fly fast, time cost will be reduced and more fuel will be burned. If pilots fly slower, they will be able to save fuel, but time cost will increase. And so, what is the best solution? It depends on where your airline operates. Perhaps airlines in the Middle East will have lower fuel costs, but their flight crew pay might be high. Then it is prudent to fly faster and save time. So the question is, which is more expensive, burning more fuel or having to fly longer? Cost index is simply an exchange rate between the cost of time and cost of fuel. So cost index is cost over time divided with cost of fuel. Say for example, fuel cost is $1 per kg and the time cost is $50 per minute. This would mean that the cost index is 50. You enter this cost index of 50 into the FMGS and then the computer will spit out the econ, Mach speed and vertical flight profile. Changing the cost index and you will change those parameters. But as a pilot, you are not supposed to do that. Why? In order to accurately calculate the cost index, you need to know the airline pay rates, the aircraft lease rates and fuel costs. Only your airline's technical department knows this. The common misconception is flying using minimum fuel equals to minimal cost. But cost of time must also be taken into account. Looking at the fuel burn to determine cost is a simplistic way and is not accurate. Remember that cost index is an exchange rate between the cost of time and cost of fuel. Cost index ensures the best speed for the lowest cost. The CI provided in your flight plan is what determines your desired Mach number. Anytime you change your cost index, some things will differ compared to your flight plan. The flight times, fuel on board, and recommended max flight levels will deviate from the predictions. This will lead to two problems. First, a more expensive flight. It is like flooring the pedal of your car on the highway. Second, predictions in the flight plan will be inaccurate. This will lead to pilots uplifting more contingency fuel in the future to cater for the inaccurate fuel predictions. This in turn will lead to greater and greater fuel burns. So the moral of the story is to not act cute and change your cost index. Only the people on the ground have full access to the financial data. But then you ask, what if your en route winds change and is different from your flight plan? Can you change the cost index? Remember, cost index is a ratio between time cost and fuel price. Wind does not come into the equation and so wind does not change the CI. The cost index of the airline does not depend on wind. The CI should still remain the same as what the flight plan states. The only thing pilots can do is to fly as close as possible to the optimal flight level and also to check your fuel on board at destination. Let us take an example. Say you expect a holding pattern at your destination airport. You can either fly at your current speed and hold, or you can slow down and perhaps may not hold for a long time. In this case, you will burn less fuel by slowing down early. Airbus recommends using the FMGS RTA function and also check the fuel on board at destination prediction on the FM. Another example, say your flight is late and your passengers will miss onboard connections. In this case, the answer is not so clear-cut. If you are late, your airline will have to provide some sort of compensation to the passengers, for example, hotel accommodation. At the same time, if you speed up, you will save more time but burn more fuel. Once again, use the RTA function to see what time you are able to land, and also bear in mind the fuel on board at destination. you would have to talk to Operation Control Center (OCC) to decide what is the best course of action. In summary, here are some key takeaways. Number 1, do not use cost index to control your speed. Number 2, to minimize cost, fly at planned cost index. And number 3, if you need to deviate from the planned cost index, remember 3 things. Use the RTA function, check the fuel on board at destination, and talk to OCC.